Hello YouTubers, RogueMonkeyJr here, and in today's video we're going to go over my graphics settings for Apex Legends. So some people have been asking me what settings I use in Apex just to maximize performance and visibility at the same time. So we're going to go through these settings real quick. Alright, so going into the video settings on Apex, we're going to go through each and every one of these settings here. There are a few more than there used to be when the game launched. So first and foremost, display mode. I always have this set to full screen, borderless window, and run in a window, generally speaking, hurt your frame rate more than anything else. Aspect ratio, I use a native 16:9 aspect ratio. If you have a monitor that's a little bit more widescreen, like 21:9 or something, you would have the option to set it there. Some people use the stretch resolution. I'm not too much of a fan of it. And you can also use 4:3 and 5:4 if you're really into that, but if not, just leave it set to the default aspect ratio. Brightness, that's really personal preference. I just leave it on 50%, and I can also set the brightness on my monitor if I choose to do so. Field of view, so I have this set to 90. This really depends on what you prefer. I just always have it set to default. I've always played on default FOV, and so I just left it on 90, but I know a lot of people play with something like 100, 104. Then again, personal preference, and setting this higher than 90 can have impact on your FPS, so just beware of that if your PC maybe isn't that powerful. Next, print view shake. This is awful. Put that to minimal. Next, we have VSync. So VSync, I have it to disabled, and I also have a launch command in Apex itself to force no VSync, to make sure there's no VSync at all, to have unlocked frame rate. My current PC isn't really all that powerful, or not powerful enough to run Apex at 240 frames per second, like the refresh rate of my monitor, which is 240 Hertz, but I am getting an upgrade for my GPU very soon, so I'm probably going to be able to push past 240 frames per second. Next, we have adaptive resolution FPS target. Now, what this would do is, let's say you put it to, I don't know, 100 frames per second. So the game is always going to adapt the settings, the video settings, to match the 100 FPS. So when you have more things happening on screen, then the game is going to, adapt all the textures and all the different settings you can have to maybe lower so that it can hit that 100 FPS target, but I just have this set to off. Not a fan of that. As for anti-aliasing, TSAA offers the highest anti-aliasing to make all the edges look sharp and reduce jagged lines, but turning this down will reduce GPU load, so if you have a not too powerful graphics card, maybe turning this down could get you a little bit more frames per second. Texture streaming budget, I just have it set to low. You can set it higher if you want, and you could even disable it altogether, but it would probably make the game seem pretty bad and look really bad, so I have it set to low. When I get an upgrade, I might turn it up higher because I'm gonna have a lot of more GPU power. Next, texture filtering. So as it says here, it controls the sharpness and details of surfaces. Now, generally speaking, you're not going to really be paying attention to surface details and the sharpness of them. The main point of Apex is to, survive the Battle Royale or the Apex games and come out on top. So more than likely, you're probably going to be focusing more on enemies and what's happening around you rather than walking around and looking at the ground. So if we were playing maybe a single player game that is much more immersive, I would probably put this to the maximum to get, the sharpest detail in any visually beautiful looking game. Next, we have ambient occlusion. Again, I have this disabled, so it controls the render target resolution, and reducing this reduces GPU load. For the shadows, I have all these set to low. Spot shadow details set to disabled, so this is how detailed shadows are from lights in the environment. Again, not that important. Volumetric lighting, I have this set to disable as well, so it controls whether the sunbeams are enabled to simulate light scattering in the air. Again, not that important for a competitive FPS shooter like Apex Legends. Dynamic spot shadow, disabled. Model detail, I have this set to high because this controls how detailed the legends and objects are. So if you're looking at your weapon all game and you're looking at enemies, you're going to want to have those models detailed as best as possible to get a good visual representation of what you're shooting at. Effects detail, this details visual effects like explosions, so I have it set to medium, and you can set it lower if you really want to. You can also set it to really low to maximize the number of frames per second you get. Impact marks, I usually have this set to disabled. This reduces your CPU load. I was doing some recoil pattern testing the other day, so I had it set to high, but having it disabled, you won't see bullet marks on the walls. And ragdolls, I have it set to high, so if you have a lower end CPU or not a very powerful CPU, you can turn this down or turn it like low to reduce CPU load, but I just have it set to high. Ragdolls are always fun to look at. But these are my graphics settings as of recording this on November 21st. I might change them soon, just changing a few things like the texture streaming budget and maybe like the effect details, because I'm going to get a more powerful GPU. But this is basically what I use to get maximum visibility and the most amount of frames per second without the game looking like absolute dog shit, being completely honest. Alright, so moving on to the launch commands that I have for Apex Legends. So you can do these on Steam and Origin. And just for the sake of it, I'm just going to show you on Origin as well how you do them in case you are playing on Origin. Alright, so for putting launch commands for Apex on Origin, you need to right click on the game, so Apex, then go game properties, and then you can go advanced launch options and have the launch options set here. So me, I have force no VSync like this, and plus FPS max 0, which unlocks your frame rate to whatever you can get. So even if you have a 240 Hz monitor or 144 Hz monitor, then this could unlock your frame rate and you could have, I don't know, 200 frames per second on a 144 Hz monitor. And then when you save this, you can add a bunch of other launch commands. I'll leave a link in the description down below, as well as in the top pinned comment for a list of all the launch commands you can put. Beware, some of them can break your game, so do this at your own risk. But these ones, no, this won't break your game. If you use force no VSync and plus FPS max 0, you'll be fine. Doing this on Steam, pretty much the same thing. Right click on the game, go to properties, and then you set launch options right here. So here I have one more launch command, force no VSync, same thing, plus FPS max 0, and I also have plus CL show position 2, which shows the velocity in the left hand corner, so you can go 1, 2, 3, or 4, and that decides which corner the show position overlay is in. So I just had this on for the bunny hopping video I made the other day, just to show people the velocity, but now I'm going to be turning it off. So that's how you put the launch commands in Apex. So, and then when you're done, just hit OK, and as soon as you launch the game, those commands are going to be live. You can also do it by making a config file and not having to put the commands in the launch settings of the games, but you know, it's just as easy to do it in the launch options for the game that you want. But that will do it for today's video, so I hope this helps you out and maybe, you know, boosts your frame rates a little bit or increases the visibility in Apex Legends. If you enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.